from CBS Sports.
High drive, center field, hit the wall, grand slam. This is magnificent.
Got a fantasy question? Email fantasybaseball@cbsi.com. Get ready to win your league.
Where fantasy becomes reality.
Now here's Frank, Scott, Chris, and Adam.
And we're back. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Tuesday, July 6th. Hope everybody had a happy and healthy 4th of July weekend. Also, hope you enjoyed our cookout draft. We had a lot of fun with that one. A very crispy Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Scott, how was your weekend, man? You're not looking nearly as sunburnt as I am, so I actually I feel great for you that is not the case. I hope you also did not have to eat any carrot and raisin salad, right?
I did not. No, I was thinking though, as I was enjoying my 4th of July cookout, not at all prepared by me, of course. So, not like I need to be casting blame or anything, but zero of my picks from the cookout draft were made available to me. So, it was great though. Barbecue ribs, probably the best barbecue ribs I've ever had, to be frank.
From where?
From my father-in-law. Oh. My father-in-law's grill. They were delicious. Very
Never
good.
heard of it.
Yeah.
Davey?
Yeah. Which, is preferable to hot dogs just from a pure, culinary, just from a culinary perspective. But of course, you think 4th of July cookout, you think in and out of the pool, you think probably some kids running around. You want to keep the food pretty versatile. It was more of a sit-down meal for our 4th of July, but it was great. Can't complain.
Very nice. Yeah, that's what Chris pointed out in our cookout draft, that if you get the ribs done the right way, they do have very, very high upside. Chris, how you doing, bud? I know you went away for the weekend.
Yeah, long weekend, man. I am feeling every bit of my 33 years after 3 days in a row of drinking and staying up late and hanging out. And yeah, it was a great weekend though. Atlanta's a lovely town. Got to go to the aquarium, saw some fishies. It's like a zoo for fishies, so it's great. Love it. They got big fishies there, man. They got the manta rays. They're like this big. It's great. Good time. Whale
they
sharks.
Still have a
like
whale shark?
Big.
They still got the whale shark?
They got two. They got two juvenile whale sharks.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've
apparently
never
one of them died. Apparently a whale shark died last year. You need a really big net to get that out. Like one of those.
Is it a male and a female whale shark? Can they make baby whale sharks?
I think it's 2 little boys.
It's not going to work.
I've never been to ATL myself, but I've heard very good things.
Great town.
I've got to make my way out there. Obviously, yeah, I didn't get the memo. You go to the Sunshine State, you're supposed to wear sunscreen, but like if I take this shirt off that I'm wearing right now, which is like a salmon-y color, it would still look like I'm wearing the same exact. So
I was out at the pool all weekend, Frank. You wouldn't know it by looking at me, but see, I know how to prepare for that.
I'm in a very, very bad place right now, but let's talk about some baseball. It was a very long weekend.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Of course, we're going to talk about Garrett Cole and Aroldis Chapman and the sticky stuff being down for those guys and a few other pitchers. I know we talk about that a lot. So it seems like we say the same thing every time, but frustration is building for a lot of fantasy managers who have Garrett Cole and have Aroldis Chapman. So we'll try and talk it out, figure out what we're going to do. Maybe you should try and buy low on Garrett Cole if you can get him cheap enough. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But Chris, we'll start with you. Who's your oh my goodness gracious player from the past 4 days? That's a lot of baseball.
Yeah, I'm working on the waiver wire column for this weekend. I totally blanked out that this would be the first one since Friday morning. So got a lot to write about, but one of the guys I'm going to write about is Joe Ross, who had another very, very good start. That is 5 really good starts in a row. I guess technically 6. He gave up 4 runs, but none of them were earned. So in terms of his ERA, 6 really good starts in a row for Joe Ross, or 5 out of 6, I guess. But 2.31 ERA, 44 strikeouts, 39 innings pitched over those 6 starts. That is well over 6 innings per start. He's gone over 100 pitches in 3 of the 6, over 88 in 5 of the 6. I don't quite understand how Joe Ross is doing this. He is throwing harder, but he's pretty heavily reliant on his fastballs still. But he was a really interesting young pitcher, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and injuries have been a real problem for him. But he's healthy now. He's 28 years old, and maybe, he's tapping into some of that potential that he once showed. It's been a very impressive stretch for him so far.
Yeah, and this was probably the most impressive start within that stretch of starts for Joe Ross. Maybe not, actually. I know he had another 8-inning start in there, but against the Dodgers, 6 2/3, 3 runs, 0 walks to 11 strikeouts. Yeah. The fastball velocity has been up, but specifically his last 2 starts, he's been up around 95 miles per hour. So that's like way up from where he was at earlier on in the season there for Joe Ross. He's 64% rostered. Scott, I'm going to throw this one your way. Between Joe Ross, Logan Gilbert, who over his last 6 starts has a 2.90 ERA, and Zach Thompson, who has now been very good through his 5 starts. He's got a 2.25 ERA, 14.8% swinging strike rate. Logan Gilbert, Joe Ross, Zach Thompson, all between 58% and 70% rostered. How would you rank those 3, Scott?
I think I'm going to put Ross at the bottom of that group because you happen to pick out 2 players I really like in Logan Gilbert and Zach Thompson. That's the order I would rank them, by the way. And they're both getting a ton of whiffs. I mean, what was interesting about Logan Gilbert on Friday is he got 15 whiffs. He threw only 7 sliders. So remember, he was hardly featuring the changeup early on. It was just fastball slider, basically, gradually working in that slider more. He threw 73 fastballs, 16 changeups, and 7 sliders, and still got 15 whiffs. So I really like the way he's going as he mixes in that slider more. Not so dependent as he mixes in that changeup more. Sorry, not so dependent on the slider. I think Gilbert is showing us something with that. And Zach Tom,
and worth noting, Gilbert's velocity was up, hit 98 a couple times the start, and averaged 95.7. His year average 94.8. So that's not nothing.
That's
either.
Good.
10 whiffs with the 4-seamer.
Zach Thompson on Sunday, you mentioned 15 whiffs, Frank. 3 on the fastball, 3 on the cutter, 3 on the curveball, 6 on the changeup. I mean, guy's got a lot of pitches, and all of them seem capable of getting swinging strikes. So, it's the unlikeliest breakout I've ever seen. I've said that before. 27-year-old without much of a minor league track, not a very good minor league track record, but he looks really impressive. I don't have a problem. Like, Joe Ross has to be rostered at this point, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense how he's succeeding. And the thing is, he has 2 starts with a combined 18 earned runs. You take those 2 starts out of Joe Ross's season, and he's got an ERA like right around 2 as opposed to right around 4. So, and that way it's even more impressive than it looks. But yeah, not a lot of swinging strikes, not a lot of ground balls, not a great walk rate. Not really sure how it's happening, but it's good enough. It's good enough to roll with for now.
Logan Gilbert, Joe Ross.
RP eligible too.
Yeah.
For Joe Ross. Yes, he has SPARP eligibility.
And Zach Thompson is too.
Yep. There you go. We have 2 SPARPs there for those of you in points leagues: Gilbert, Joe Ross, and Zach Thompson. Again, 3 names that should not be available on your waiver wire. Chris, would you be okay dropping Rich Hill and Marco Gonzalez? They had clunkers over the weekend. Adbert Alzolay, he was pretty good, actually. 7 innings, 3 runs, but he has a 6.14 ERA in 3 starts since coming off the IL. Would you be okay dropping Hill, Marco Gonzalez, Alzolay for all of these 3?
Yeah, I'd be fine dropping any of them for any of those 3. I think at that point in the pitcher rankings, you're just trying to cycle through and catch lightning in a bottle. And the 3 guys you'd be adding currently have some spark.
All right, Scott, you are up. Oh my goodness gracious! From the 4 days, who you got?
I might be overlooking somebody here, but there's a lot of notes to go through. I'm gonna go with Kenta Maeda. who for the first time all season on Sunday had a start that looked like basically every Kenta Maeda start last year. 6 innings, 2 hits, 10 strikeouts. 7 on the splitter, 7 on the slider. Whiffs, that is 18 whiffs total, 7 on the splitter, 7 on the slider. I think those were his 2 most thrown pitches too. I didn't really see a lot of reason why it was so much better and any kind of change he made. There was a story on the Twins website about how he wore high socks for the first time, but I doubt that had anything to do with it.
That was it.
He said,
your blood flows better when you're wearing tight socks.
Maeda himself said he did a better job of attacking hitters in the zone. So, I don't doubt there was a change in his approach that contributed to this improved stat line, but whether or not he can continue it, what exactly it was, I can't really speak to that, but it does make me hopeful that we'll still get something out of Kenta Maeda this season when he's mostly looked like a lost cause.
It also helped that he was going up against the Royals, so take that into
True
here, because the Royals offenses, they've really floundered since the earlier part of the season. But speaking of hitting, attacking hitters inside the zone, 76% first pitch strike percentage for Kenta Maeda in that start against the Royals, which was a season high. And for the season, he's at 59.7%. So I think it stands to reason that he should continue to attack hitters within the zone and try to establish that strike zone earlier on.
Easier said than done, I assume, but yeah.
Yes, of course. So great start there from Kenta Maeda. I don't think there's anything much more to add. Hopefully he can build off of this start for him, because he's been dropping down my ranks. He's like closer to falling out of the top 50 now. So some confidence there from Kenta Maeda. Let's talk about it. The Yankees, they stink. And specifically Garrett Cole and Aroldis Chapman. People get on me for talking about the Yankees. Look, the Yankees have a lot of fantasy viable players that we need to talk about, especially when they're pitching or playing this poorly. So for Garrett Cole up against the Mets on Sunday, everything just kind of came to a head here. 3 1/3, 6 hits, 4 runs. It was his shortest start since 2016. He only threw 5 sliders, which was a season low. Garrett Cole's first 8 starts of the season, he had a 1.37 ERA, 15.8% swinging strike rate. His next 9 starts, a 4.47 ERA. This is from mid-May on. So basically, Garrett Cole has been a below average starting pitcher for more starts of the season than not at this point. That's saying a lot for someone who was drafted in the first round as one of the top 3 starting pitchers in fantasy baseball. And then Aroldis Chapman, he gave up 3 runs without recording an out. He has a 14.54 ERA in 12 appearances since the start of June. And obviously a lot of this coincides with the crackdown on sticky substances, foreign substances. Aaron Boone was non-committal on Aroldis Chapman being the Yankees closer after the game on Sunday. So that is very telling about where they were at. And he was just named an all-star too, right after that. So that was ironic, I guess, on top.
Yeah, those reliever stats can flip pretty quickly. And that's what's happened with him, because his ERA was like a month ago, it was below 1, right? He
was having like a historically good season.
Yeah.
I talked about it. It was the best that I ever saw Aroldis Chapman pitch. He incorporated the splitter to go along with his slider, and obviously a near 100-mile-per-hour fastball. Was that all attributed to using sticky substances? It kind of looks like it now. I don't know that we can completely draw that conclusion, but yeah, it's kind of coincided with all of this happening. So look, with Garrett Cole, if you have him on your fantasy team or you're advising someone who does have him, what do you do? Like, do you just hold on to him? Do you not start him for now? He's facing the Astros this week. How can you start Garrett Cole against the Astros right now?
I would start him.
You do it.
That's scary. It's scary, man.
No, I get that, but like, you do it because it's Garrett Cole. Like, I don't know, maybe that's a loser's mentality, but
he's just not Garrett Cole. You know what I'm saying, Chris? He's not.
Right, but he's not. I don't know. We've seen stuff like this from him before. Like, not exactly like this, but do you guys remember what his ERA was after he had a 10-start stretch? Basically at the start of the 2019 season, where he had a 4.11 ERA after his first 11 starts, but this 10-start stretch was 4.37. That's pretty comparable to what we're seeing from him over his last 9. Now, obviously, the last, 5 starts especially have been, is it 5 or 6 starts that have been just especially rough? 6 starts. So back to the start of June. And if you look at his worst 6 starts, this is his worst 6-start stretch of the last 4 years. He has a 5.24 ERA. He had a 6-start stretch at the beginning of 2019 with a 4.71 ERA. He had a 6-start stretch last season with a 4.19 ERA. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with Gerrit Cole. Clearly, something's not right. His strikeout rate is much lower than we're used to, even during those previous poor stretches. But I don't know. I think maybe what we're seeing is just that maybe he's not the best pitcher in baseball or one of the 2 or 3 best pitchers in baseball. Maybe he's more like a low 3s ERA guy with a ton of strikeouts, and we're seeing the bad stretch of a low 3s ERA version of Gerrit Cole rather than the bad stretch of a mid 2s ERA Gerrit Cole.
It is a good point that you bring up, because usually he's a slow starter. And even last year, his first 8 starts, a 3.91 ERA. And that's not what you're used to getting from Gerrit Cole either. So I guess maybe he's just going through this in the middle part of the season. It's just obviously it's coming at a weird fact with the sticky substances.
Right. The fact that it coincides with the drop in spin rates, one of the biggest drop in spin rates of any pitcher. And
you can't say it's not something.
Right. Yeah. He's having to adjust, but like every time a pitcher or hitter struggles, I don't think it's just random chance they're struggling now because that's how luck would happen. I mean, sometimes that's the case, but usually that's not the case. If you look at a struggling pitcher or a struggling hitter, all the underlying numbers say they're bad too.
Well, I mean, think about Luis Castillo earlier. There was nothing physically wrong with Luis Castillo. He just needed to pitch better, and then he started pitching better.
But there was probably something that was off a little mechanically.
Right. No, but I mean, like, he wasn't hurt.
Certain pitches. There's always something to explain struggles, and we usually don't hear what that something is. So we just say, regression to the mean, whatever.
No, what I meant was like, there was no physical, like he wasn't hurt.
Sure.
And so it's hard to see like, yes, Gerrit Cole should be worse if his fastball is less effective, if it's spinning less, but like we're still talking about a fastball that averages 98 miles per hour and has 2,400 RPMs of spin rate, which is still spins really, a lot more than hot.
Spins a lot more than his Pirates days. So this time we know what the source of the struggles are, but like he's going to adjust for that and still be a good pitcher, I think. And it could begin with his very next start. So that's why. During this stretch, he's had some really good starts. Some bad ones too.
It's just hard to see how even if the spin rate is lower, how a guy who throws 98 with the curveball that he has and a changeup that he can still throw 91 with movement, like it's hard to see how he's not going to be very, very good moving forward, even if he's not, a first round caliber ace.
Real quick, just give me a yes or no answer. If someone in your league is freaking out, would you be looking to buy low on Gerrit Cole right now?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
All right. As for Aroldis Chapman, Chad Green pitched in the second game of the doubleheader on Sunday. He went 3 perfect innings with 6 strikeouts. I believe one of those was an immaculate inning as well. So if anything happens to Chapman where they move away from him as the closer for a couple of weeks, whatever it might be, Chad Green might be the name there. If you want to bench Aroldis Chapman right now, I can't really blame you, but you might miss out on saves if they do go back to him. Some other spin rate standouts from the weekend. Lucas Giolito, he was at the Tigers. All of a sudden, the Tigers are not this like easy matchup that we all thought they were earlier in the season, by the way. Like since the beginning of June, they've actually been a pretty formidable offense. For Giolito, 5 innings, 10 hits, 6 earned runs. The ERA is up to 4.20. The fastball and slider were down over 174 RPM. Tarek Skubal up against the White Sox, 5 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs. Velocity was down a little bit. His slider spin rate was down 345 RPM. He'd been really good over his last 8 starts before that. So I don't know if there's anything there. Dylan Cease at the Minnesota Twins, 5 1/3, 6 runs, still had 18 swinging strikes. His fastball spin rate down 254 RPM. And then Walker Buehler on Monday, 5 innings, 4 runs, 3 of those were earned. 5 different pitches, down at least 191 RPM. Anyone from this group that you are actually concerned with? Giolito, Tarek Skubal, Dylan Cease, Walker Buehler.
I think, I have to be a little concerned about Cease. I mean, he's far less proven than Giolito and Buehler, for instance. And
Skubal too, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Just because of the track record.
I don't, has Skubal's ERA dropped below 4 at any point this season? Like, you don't have the same level of investment in Skubal as you do in Cease. So, Cease at the end of May, he had an ERA below 3, and now it's above 4. I will point out his previous 2 starts were good. Allowed 2 hits in 6 innings last time. The strikeouts have been good. Frank, you mentioned the whiffs have been good.
One thing this list does make me think of, and it's something we brought up with Garrett Cole and a couple other pitchers early on when we were talking about the spin rate stuff. But, Cease, I think Giolito probably accounts for, and I think Skubal, I mean, it's early, but certainly in his career, he hasn't had great control. These all strike me as, except for Buehler, these all strike me as like middling command guys who get by on, stuff more than command. And, if your stuff's not quite as good, your margin for error is a little slimmer. And I think that's, when I look at the spin rate stuff, I think that's the kind of pitcher that I think would be impacted the most. But, for all these guys, I still think they're going to be mostly fine. Like, I think Giolito's just like Cole, just in a little bit of a rough patch. And I think he'll figure it out. I'm less confident about Skubal and Cease just because we're talking about, a couple good months for those guys. But, I still think for the most part, these guys will be fine.
And even in the case of Cease and Skubal, like it may make them a little too unreliable to be anything more than matchups play the rest of this season. That's what I think the worst case scenario is. But even, but from like a dynasty perspective, a long-term perspective, I'm not dumping Cease and Skubal. I'm not, selling them for 50 cents on the dollar because their spin rates are down.
Yep, for sure. And we've talked a lot about Casey Mize, and they mentioned how he's going to be limited throughout the summer at some point. I think it's probably going to happen for Tarek Skubal too. They haven't come out and said it. We haven't talked about it, but 32 innings pitched last year for Skubal, 122 2/3 the year before. So I don't know how much further the Tigers want to push him this year. Obviously, they have big plans for him in the future. And just going back to Giolito real quick, he had a 5.26 BABIP against in this starting against the Tigers. 6 hard hit balls. That's like not too worrisome. It's fine. But a 5.26 BABIP, I mean, he had some bad luck in this one too. So I'm not overly worried about anyone there either. Before we hit the news and notes, just want to let you know about what's going on at CBS Sports HQ this week. As always, CBS Sports HQ is the network to start your sports news day at 8 a.m. Eastern with Morning Buzz, an hour of highlights, news, and all the days need to know. And come back or leave us on all day at 6 p.m. where we break down all the night's action and release dozens of picks from the best analysts and cappers in the sports world. How to watch HQ? It's easy. Go to your Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, really most connected TVs, and look for the CBS Sports app. Fire it up. Check out HQ, the only 24/7 free sports streaming network. On to news and notes from the 4-day weekend. We had big news on the Trevor Bauer front, and again, just want to express how serious the situation is with him. Obviously, Trevor Bauer is dealing with charges of sexual assault right now. He was placed on the 7-day commissioner's exempt list, and the 7 days do end this Friday, but then he could be transferred to an indefinite leave. So they've already come out and said that he's not likely to pitch before the All-Star break, and that's really all the information we have as of now in terms of Trevor Bauer. Zach Plesac will be activated to start Thursday's game against the Royals, so Cleveland getting someone back in their rotation, much needed. Trey Turner is expected to be, I wrote this earlier in the day. He was back in the lineup.
He was in the lineup today. He crushed a home run. Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Like first pitch he saw, I think.
Dusty Baker expressed hope that Kyle Tucker would return from his back injury on Tuesday, so much needed there. Jack Flaherty was transferred to the 60-day IL for the Cardinals, which means he will not be back until early August. So pretty big loss there for Jack Flaherty. I think he went down in like May, so he's going to be out close to 3 months at that point.
Yeah.
Marlins pitcher Sixto Sanchez, this one, I guess, is not all that surprising, but he's going to undergo season-ending shoulder surgery, and MRI revealed a small tear in the posterior capsule of his right shoulder. So it's actually kind of worrisome long-term if you have Sixto Sanchez in a keeper or dynasty league. Obviously, don't sell him short, but not the news that you want to hear. Yasmani Grandal returned on Monday and then left with that same calf injury that he's been dealing with, likely headed to the IL. Same thing could be said for Eddie Rosario, who was dealing with a persisting right abdominal strain, and he exited Monday's action as well. So could also land on the IL. Michael Lorenzen could return from the IL on Saturday with the Cincinnati Reds. He was a candidate to start for them earlier in the season. Chris, we were talking a little bit about him beforehand. You think maybe there's a chance he gets worked into the back end of that bullpen? What are you thinking?
Well, yeah, just given how shaky the back end of that bullpen has been and how they haven't really been able to settle on an answer. He will probably be back before Lucas Sims and TJ Antone, right?
Yeah, Lucas Sims and TJ Antone
probably a couple more weeks away.
Yeah, they're looking at late July.
Yeah, so there's no guarantee he'll get it, but Doolittle hasn't been great. Amir Garrett obviously has had some very high profile meltdowns. So, he was in that discussion before the season. I think there's a chance at least.
The thing is, Brad Brock has actually been really good for the Reds. They're just using him for the heart of the order, these, fireman role opportunities that they have throughout the course of the game. So Brock's been good. They're just not using him as the closer.
They've been using Heath Embry. I think he's gotten the last 2 saves, but he has an ERA over 5, so I don't know how long that'll last.
Yeah, Embry got saves on, I believe it was both Friday and Saturday. He's 9% rostered. So
I don't know why I made the H on his name silent. That was a weird thing I just did. I was thinking like herb or something. I don't know. But even the name Herb would say the age, so it doesn't even. I have no excuse.
Again, that is Heath Embry. Buster Posey was out of the Giants lineup on Monday with a left thumb contusion. He's day-to-day. Jose Ramirez was back in the lineup Monday despite dealing with an elbow injury. He went 2 for 4 with 2 steals, so nice to see Jose Ramirez running again. Josh Donaldson with his hamstring and Nelson Cruz with his neck remained out of the lineup on Monday. Anthony Rendon was out on Monday with hamstring tightness. Andrew McCutchen was back in the lineup Monday after dealing with an oblique injury. Jonathan India was scratched with a sore right ankle. The Braves optioned Kyle Muller back to AAA over the weekend, but apparently will be recalled after the All-Star break. They didn't need a 5th starter this week. The Angels also sent down Griffin Canning after a rough outing on Friday. They also have an off day this week. They haven't been as committal, saying that Canning would be back after the All-Star break. So this is something to watch just in case. I don't think that the Angels are going to do it, but if they don't bring someone else into their rotation, then they're going to go with a 5-man rotation, which means we could get.
I wonder if maybe the schedule lines up after the All-Star break to give them the opportunity to go 5-man, but still keep Ohtani on that extra day.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility, but we will monitor that situation. The Dodgers manager, Dave Roberts, recently indicated that the team will discuss having David Price stretch out as a starter. So keep that in mind. I guess that means either Tony Gonsolin will be used more so out of the bullpen. Maybe they plan to limit Julio Urias at some point, but interesting. David Price, Lucas Sims and TJ Antone, we already mentioned this, could return to the Reds in late July. These names were placed on the IL since Friday. Kyle Schwarber went on the IL with a right hamstring strain. He said that he heard a pop in his hamstring while rounding first base. There's no official timetable, but it sounds pretty significant for Schwarber, which is very unfortunate. He was playing amazing.
Going back to Price, I think they just have it opening in the rotation.
Yeah.
I think they have for a while.
Right.
And they've just kind of
Yeah,
gone patchwork there.
And the Angels one, they can go at least one turn through the rotation with Ohtani pitching on the extra day of rest without needing an extra pitcher. So it could be that. They can get to about late July before they need a 6th starter.
All right, that's good to know. Zach Gallen went on the IL with a right hamstring strain. Sammy Long was placed on the 10-day IL for the Giants due to mild low back strain. We had some returns over the weekend as well. Franmil Reyes came back on Friday. He had 3 hits. He added 3 more hits on Monday with a home run. So nice to see Franmil Reyes picking up where he left off. Didi Gregorius returned Friday with a home run. Andrew Benintendi returned. Nico Horner Blake Snell came back, pitched 4 shutout on Sunday. Yohan Moncada was back on Monday. Danny Jansen returned for the Blue Jays on Saturday. And we do have some prospect updates and an unfortunate one. Padres 20-year-old super prospect CJ Abrams will miss the rest of the season after being diagnosed with a fractured left tibia and a sprained MCL. Pretty significant injury for someone who relies on speed. So worth monitoring there for sure. He was batting .290 with 2 homers and 13 steals at Double-A. Again, the name there, CJ Abrams. The Red Sox outfield prospect Jarren Duran was not selected for Team USA in the Olympics because the Red Sox felt they may need to call him up. Well, come on. What are we waiting for, Boston? Let's get the show on the road here with Jarren Duran. I'm currently stashing him in a few 15-team roto leagues. We need him. We need some Jarren Duran. Brewers 2020 first-round pick outfielder Garrett Mitchell was promoted to Double-A. He was hitting .359 with 5 homers and 12 steals at High A. Power speed combination there. Pirates pitching prospect Ronzi Contreras, who we've talked about many times, is dealing with forearm tightness, so hopefully nothing too major there. And Rays pitching prospect Luis Patino was sent back down to AAA Friday after allowing 7 runs to the Blue Jays. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, come back with some waiver wire hitters from the weekend. We'll do that here on Fantasy Baseball Today. All right, so Akil Baddoo was not in the lineup on Monday, but he had 7 hits over his previous 4 games with 4 steals during that span. He is 48% rostered. We've been talking about Baddoo for a while now, but Scott, I mean, are we getting to the point where he needs to be added in points leagues? I know he has really good plate discipline. What do you think about Akil Baddoo?
I mean, the point production hasn't been there. There hasn't been enough power. Inconsistent playing time hurts more in points leagues. I was making some waiver wire moves for outfielders in points leagues this weekend, and among the available outfielders, Baddoo just didn't measure up.
Okay, so we're looking at
12-team roto guy.
Yeah, 12 teams or deeper with 5 outfielders, basically, for Akil Baddoo at this point. He's playing very well, though. Among these 3 first base eligible hitters, 2 of them are first base and outfield eligible. Andrew Vaughn now has 10 hits over his previous 6 games. That was not including Monday. I didn't check to see what Andrew Vaughn. Honestly, there was a lot going on, guys, so I do apologize there. But he did have 2 home runs over his last 6 games. Andrew Vaughn, 62% rostered. Dom Smith, maybe July is finally the month for Dom Smith. 8 hits, 3 homers, 7 runs, 7 RBI, 5 games in June. It helped that he was playing in Yankee Stadium. Joey Votto, 25 games since coming off the IL, 295 batting average, 6 homers with a 93-mile-per-hour average exit velocity during that span. All are rostered between 62 and 66% of leagues, so more so shallow league ads here. Vaughn, Smith, Votto. Rank them in terms of who has the most upside, Chris.
Oh gosh, that wasn't the question I was expecting.
That's a weird phrasing there.
We need upside.
I think.
I mean, Votto has the least upside, right? Votto's the one I want.
Like, that's only because Votto's the one who we know who he is. The other 2 guys, like, you can kind of see, like, oh, Dom Smith had those 2 great months last season, and Andrew Vaughn is this big prospect. But, like, Joey Votto's, final 35 games or whatever last year were pretty good. I think Votto is the one I want, and he does have the lowest upside.
Right, exactly. Like, Votto, I'm tired of writing about him in waiver wire and in sleeper hitters. You guys need to pick up Votto already. And yeah, he probably has the least upside if I'm going to answer your precise question there, Frank,
Thank you.
This group. Yeah, that's the answer.
Do you have anything that you'd like to add on Vaughn or Dom Smith? I think Smith has pretty, maybe massive isn't the right word. I'm overselling him. I don't know. I like Dom Smith a lot coming into the year, so maybe I'm a little bit more biased, but anything on Smith and Vaughn?
Yeah. Look, Vaughn's heating up, I think, in a way that's a little more notable than Smith. And, but I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in these guys going forward just because they've had a good week,
Right.
Yeah, the thing with Vaughn is, like, he's been hitting the ball hard all season. It's just that the plate discipline hasn't been good. And so if you're looking for a reason to be optimistic about him, it's the fact that that part of his game is already here. And so if he can cut the strikeout rate to 22%, he's at like 26% overall, he could have a really, really strong close to the season. I think he will. So I'm still, if I can hang on to Vaughn still, especially now that he's heating up, I definitely want to.
Yeah, we talked about Vaughn a little bit, Chris. I think it was last week where his month-by-month splits are kind of all over the place, where one month he was hitting too many ground balls, the other month he's hitting too many fly balls. But, if he just kind of finds that level of consistency, then maybe we could get a big second half from Andrew Vaughn. Worth mentioning, Max Kepler had a double dong on Monday as well. The power and speed has been there for him recently. Last 15 games, 4 homers, 2 steals, but he's only batting 182 during that stretch. So keep that in mind. I don't know that you're ever going to get much batting average from Max Kepler, but it's been really bad this year. If you do play in a two catch,
kind of Cavaggio-esque in the swing profile.
Yeah, for Max Kepler. Yeah, it's a lot of fly balls, where he probably excelled in that 2019 season because it was the juice ball. I don't know that we're ever going to get back to that level, but obviously still an okay lineup. The Twins have underwhelmed so far this year. If you do play in a 2-catcher league, a few catchers have emerged or re-emerged. Elias Diaz, his last 15 games, batting .306 with 5 home runs. He's basically the everyday catcher for the Rockies, so that means something. He's 9% rostered. The other name there, Eric Haas, who is heating back up. He's got 5 hits with a double dong over the weekend. He's 26% rostered. Scott, if you play in a 2-catcher league, Diaz or Haas?
I will have to say Diaz for now. Well, it looks like they've started playing Haas more. So Haas has started 4 of the last 5, but he had sat out 3 in a row before that. So, yeah. If the Rockies are at home, Diaz, otherwise Haas.
That's the thing is right now the Rockies are on the road. So it's probably Haas, but next Rockies homestand, Diaz.
All right, let's take a look at some hitters in deeper leagues. Actually, I don't know if Jake Fraley deserves to be here. Maybe he should be rostered in 12-team, at least roto leagues with 5 outfielders. He had a massive game on Friday, which seems forever ago, but a home run and 2 steals in that game. He now has 7 homers and 7 steals on the season over, I believe it was 34, 35 games, something like that. A 30-30 pace over 150 games for Jake Fraley, who had a pretty good June. He's 25% rostered. Should he be rostered in 12-team, 5 outfielder leagues?
Definitely yes. OBP leagues. And yeah, I think 5 outfielder, 12 teams.
Yeah. I mean, just for the you get a base stealer who also has some power. And, Jared Kelenich's heating up at AAA. Tacoma, I believe it is, for the Mariners. And Jerry Dipoto, the GM, was on the radio this Friday saying he was going to be up again soon. Kelenic was, which, we didn't really need to hear him say that, but nonetheless, he said it. Fraley's, I think, his job is safe even when Kelenic comes back because you got Taylor Trammell getting starts out there. He's still batting under 200. Shed Long started to take some of Trammell's at bats, but those two can just both go away. Fraley's sticking around, I think.
All right. I have 2 other deep league outfielders. Oscar Mercado came back for Cleveland, just kind of under the radar, just returned back to the team. But he had a solid June at AAA, 265 batting average, 5 homers, 6 steals. So some of that power speed for Oscar Mercado. And Ben Gamel, who's been hot for the Pirates. Double dong on Monday. He's got 8 hits with 4 homers over his last 5 games. Both of these gentlemen are a combined 3% rostered in CBS League. So, Chris, between Mercado and Gamel, any interest?
Mercado more than Gamel, but not much in either. I need to see a lot from Mercado at this point. I did like him coming into the season as a sleeper, but just not sure how much he's going to play. Not sure how good he is.
All right. Before we get to the rest of the weekend's action, we're very happy to announce that Express is back as a sponsor of the podcast. Express Confidence, Express You. Express is all new and all about you with a fresh mix of casual, versatile, and super comfortable styles. Got to start with their cotton stretch shirts, which is what I'm wearing right now, actually. Really comfortable. I genuinely enjoy Express clothing. I've been wearing them for years, even before we We've had them as a sponsor, so I actually am pretty stoked that we have them again. Breathable, stretch infused cotton for all day comfort. My first priority is always comfort. If I'm not comfortable, I'm not confident. It's that easy. They are also machine washable, so you don't have to worry about dry cleaning, and are available in all different kinds of colors. I'm wearing the salmon shirt, same color as my sunburnt face and arms right now, but they come in a wide variety of colors. Maybe you need something to dress up for a special occasion, a wedding, graduation, whatever it might be. Express offers suiting and separates designed to be worn together as a suit or separately with casual pieces. I bought one of their slim-fitting olive blazers from the Luxe Comfort collection, and it really is the perfect combination of style and comfort. Available in chambray, linen, seersucker, and the aforementioned Luxe Comfort knit. Make sure to be on the lookout for great summer deals in stores and at express.com. Express confidence, express you. Some other standouts from the weekend in terms of hitters and guys that have been bouncing back. Shohei Ohtani, I mean, what else are we going to say? All-Star Week is actually, this one I'm looking forward to more than ever before, because we get to see Shohei Ohtani in the home run derby in Coors Field. It's just, how many home runs is this guy going to hit? It's going to be ridiculous. And he's going to pitch and he's going to hit in the All-Star game. So that's awesome. He had 3 more homers over the weekend. Now has 31 home runs, 67 RBI, and 12 steals before the All-Star break. It's just ridiculous. Kevin Biggio in 21 games since returning from the IL. He's hitting 284, 3 homers, and 880 OPS. Trevor Story has home runs in back-to-back games over his last 15 games, 288 with 6 homers and 4 steals. Manny Machado had a double dong on Sunday. Looks like he's back. His last 15 games, 360 batting average, 5 homers, 3 steals. Tommy Edman bouncing back again his last 7 games, 393 batting average with 3 steals. Jose Abreu gets hit on his knee last Sunday, writhing around in pain. I thought he was going to be out a couple of days at least. Nope. Goes on to have one of his best weeks of the season. 8 for 23, 2 homers, and 8 RBI in 6 games. Ohtani, Biggio, Story, Machado, Edman, Abreu. Anything that you'd like to add on any of these players?
I don't think so. Did you mention Jose Ramirez and his 2 steals on a Monday? Those were his first steals since May 19th.
That is a pretty long time. I mentioned it during the news and notes, but yeah, it's good to see him running again for sure.
Yeah, it is. It is. No, I mean, none of these were surprising. I know you were expressed concern about Edman a while back, Frank, and he was pretty useless for a few weeks there, but player slump sometimes wouldn't, and still makes a lot of contact, steal runs. He's back. He's fine. He's usable.
I think
he's versatile.
Worth talking about Kevin Biggio, I guess. The 91 mile per hour exit velocity. You did mention him during this, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. 91 mile per hour average exit velocity since coming back from the IL. And he came back from the IL like middle of June. Did he play much in June before that? I can't remember the how it worked. He was out all of June until he came back, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you're looking at 93 mile per hour average exit velocity in the month of June. I have to imagine that's the highest of his career, given how middling his average exit velocities have been. It's interesting, given the fact that he's been so middling and he'd been fantasy relevant before that. If he can, consistently be someone who does hit the ball at least, at an average exit velocity with an average hard hit rate, which he isn't doing the latter of, I think there's an interesting player there. If not, we'll see if this can sustain. So far in the very early goings in July, it hasn't. He's struck out 5 times in 12 plate appearances entering tonight, but we'll see.
Yeah, he's not running nearly as
worth
much.
Noting.
Yeah, for sure. He's not running as much, but any exposure to the Blue Jays lineup right now is something that I would want on my fantasy team because they are amazing. So, especially if he's hitting the ball this hard. If someone hasn't realized how good he's been, if you want to buy, he's like a buy medium. I would look into that for Kevin Biggio, who has all the positional flexibility in the world. Some waiver options in terms of pitchers that were not nearly as good as Logan Gilbert, Joe Ross, and Zach Thompson, but they were pretty good over the weekend. Chris Flexen, 6 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts. Basically just pitch him at home. He's got a sub-2 ERA at home this year and an ERA around 7 on the road. Drew Smiley, his last 4 starts, he's got a 1.21 ERA with a 0.99 whip. He's 48% rostered. I'm not sure if you guys have realized this, but despite Alex Cobb's 4.60 ERA, his underlying numbers are fantastic. Specifically you, Chris. I think you should look into Alex Cobb. He's been really good. Tyler Anderson. Tyler Anderson's last 3 starts, he's got a 2.41 ERA. Tyler McGill for the Mets. He was pretty good on Monday. 5 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts. He had 16 swinging strikes. Kwang Hyun Kim at the Giants, 7 shutout, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. Flexen, Smiley, Cobb, Tyler Anderson, Tyler McGill, and Kwang Hyun Kim. Give me your 2 favorite. Scott.
My 2 favorite are McGill and Flexen. I've been pretty excited about McGill. What?
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Show Alex Cobb some love.
I've been pretty excited about McGill since I first learned he was getting called up, and looking at how impressive his minor league numbers were. And this was his most impressive start. It was the third start, but it was the most impressive. 2 hits in 5 innings, 7 strikeouts, 16 swinging strikes, 7 on the fastball and 8 on the changeup. The changeup is supposedly a work in progress. It's supposedly his least developed pitch, and he got his most swinging strikes on that one in this outing. He had 14 swinging strikes for what it's worth in his previous outing, and those were pretty well distributed between 3 pitches: the fastball, the changeup, and also the slider. So kind of like I was saying for Zach Thompson, he shows more effective pitches than you'd expect a pitcher first getting called up. And both of the guys are in their mid-20s, so they're maybe a little more developed than a top prospect getting promoted. But they're performing. They're performing in the majors, and I think the stuff is good enough that maybe it can continue.
All right, so the top 2 for Scott, Chris Flexen and Tyler McGill. Chris, would your top 2 be the same, or is Alex Cobb in there?
McGill and Cobb. I think Flexen's just a guy. At least Cobb is getting strikeouts.
He is just a guy, but he's a hot guy.
Alex Cobb, by the way, I'm joking with Chris, but 4.60 ERA on the season. The underlying numbers are very good. I know I've told people, like, don't stream him. I don't fully trust it. I want to see more, even though these underlying numbers are great, but 58% ground ball rate. He's getting more whiffs this year. Strikeouts have been there for Alex Cobb. It was a revenge game against the Baltimore Orioles, so some added motivation. How about if you're playing a deeper league? I got some names here. Eric Lauer, he was at the Pirates, 6 1/3, 1 run, 4 strikeouts. Kyle Freeland, his last 3 starts, Kyle Freeland, 0.53 ERA, 17 strikeouts, over 17 innings pitched, with a 59% ground ball rate for Kyle Freeland. Jordan Lyles, his last 9 games, has a 3.78 ERA. And then Wiley Peralta. That's right. That Wiley Peralta, the one that was going to be the closer one year for the Royals. I think he pitched for the Brewers at some point as a starting pitcher. He's had a long career. Somehow he's on the Tigers now. At Texas on, I think it was Monday, 7 shutout with 6 strikeouts. He has allowed just 1 run over his last 2 starts, Wiley Peralta. Lauer. Go ahead, Scott.
You may remember Wiley Peralta as Willie Peralta.
Is it Willie Peralta?
It's Willie Peralta.
Oh, well, then I just completely, because there's only one L there, so it's kind of misleading.
You may know him from his appearances in a series of cartoons where he plays Wile E. Coyote.
All right, I deserve that. Eric Lauer, Kyle Freeland, Jordan Lyles, Willie Peralta. Anything to see here for these deeper waiver wire pitchers?
Probably not. I mean, Freeland had changed his pitch mix with more breaking balls, and it was seeing more success, but I think he reverted back in this most recent start.
He
You know,
did.
a pitch to contact guy for the Rockies. I mean, I'm just not going to invest in that.
Mhm.
Peralta's been a good ground ball pitcher throughout his career, but obviously it hasn't had much success. He did have a 2.75 ERA in 6 minor league starts before getting the call to the Tigers, and then has put together back-to-back pretty good starts here. But it's not enough for me to make a move for a 32-year-old who nobody's heard of in 5 years, and he wasn't good then.
All right. That's fair. The deeper league names that you look at in a 15-team league or deeper. Let's hit some pitching standouts. Part 1 from the weekend. Zach Wheeler up against the Padres. Just keeps chugging along. 7 2/3 shutout with 9 strikeouts. Max Scherzer up against the Dodgers. 6 innings pitched, 8 strikeouts. Spin rate's down a little bit on his slider. They've been down in general for Max Scherzer, but has not affected his production whatsoever. Alek Manoah versus the Tampa Bay Rays. His coming out party. Best start of the season. 7 shutout with 10 strikeouts against Tampa Bay. Sonny Gray returned against the Cubs. 5 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. Actually, should have mentioned him earlier. Spin rate's way down for Sonny Gray. 450 RPM on the slider. Curveball was down 235 RPM. He did play with Trevor Bauer last year.
It's not even that. Like the Driveline Baseball or one of the Driveline Baseball guys is like the director of pitching development or something with the Reds. And
yeah, I think it's Kyle Boddy.
Yeah, they've done a lot of research on the effects of spin rate and sticky substances while working with various major league pitchers. So, do with that what you will.
Eduardo Rodriguez at the Oakland A's had 6 shutout with 6 strikeouts, and he has back-to-back quality starts. He's allowed just 2 runs with 14 strikeouts over his last 12 innings pitched. He's 80% rostered. Erod might be out there in some shallower leagues, shallower point leagues for sure. Wheeler, Scherzer, Manoah, Sonny Gray, Erod. Chris, you get first dibs. Well, I guess second dibs because you already talked, but go ahead.
I guess Manoah is the most
dipping.
interesting just because we've seen flashes of really good pitching from him, but this is the best that we've seen from him. But overall, you look at the numbers and it feels like he's been disappointing. And then I look at it and he's got a 2.7 ERA. And even before this start, he was above average strikeout rate, pretty good ERA. He looks pretty legit, and he is actually pretty comfortable with that changeup. He's thrown it more than 10% of the time in 3 of his last 4 starts, including 13% of the time in this start. So, I think Alek Manoah is pretty good.
I think where he's going to run into trouble is that when he gives up contact, it's more so of the fly ball variety, and obviously pitching in Buffalo, more of a hitter's park there, where the Blue Jays are currently playing. So I think that's what can get him in trouble. But 23 swinging strikes in this start. Tampa Bay, they swing and miss a lot, but 23 is still amazing. 11 of those came on the slider. Scott, anything you'd like to add on this group?
Yeah, I had been concerned. I didn't feel like he was missing enough bats in his first 6 starts, certainly compared to the hype that he had built up in the minors, and being a fly ball pitcher, you really need to miss bats. It's rare the fly ball pitcher that can succeed in spite of that, in spite of not missing bats. So just 1 start, but it was exactly what you want to see from Manoah. I want to mention for Eduardo Rodriguez that as awful as he had been for as long as it was, the underlying numbers remained pretty solid for him. So I'm not totally surprised to see him rebound here, even though in some leagues I had to drop him myself just because I couldn't make room for a guy who was causing that much trouble.
All right, pitching standouts part 2 from the weekend. Robbie Ray up against the Tampa Bay Rays, 7 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts. He has a quality start in 6 of his last 7 starts. Zach Greinke at Cleveland, 7 2/3, 3 runs, 8 strikeouts, 18 swinging strikes. That's pretty damn good for Zach Greinke. And then German Marquez, who we have talked about quite a bit recently. Scott has never been on any of the podcasts where we talk up German Marquez. So we've got to get your thoughts here, Scott. Up against the Cardinals at home, 6 innings, 2 runs, 11 strikeouts, 20 swinging strikes on 95 pitches, 11 starts now since May 9th for German Marquez, 2.38 ERA, 13.9% swinging strike rate, 54% ground ball rate. Come on, Scott. You coming around?
Well, and one of those starts during that stretch was an 8 earned run in two-thirds of an inning disaster. So just imagine what his numbers would look like if that didn't happen.
Well, he has a 2.35 ERA for the season if you just take out the 2 starts with the 8 earned runs, which obviously.
Yeah, well, I was just noticing
really
that now.
But
my impression of German Marquez is that he was basically terrible before this 11 start stretch, as you referred to, Adam.
Whoa,
Frank.
whoa.
I think that's the first time that's happened. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
Well, I
it was
call
like,
my kids the wrong name half the time. So
he only had 3 quality starts in his first 7. He was pretty bad before this.
The control was really bad early in the season. Lots of walks. I think it was the first month of the season. His walks per 9 were over 5. Like, that's really, really bad. But
you know what I did? I looked at the game log backwards because you know how some game logs, the earliest part of the season is at the top, and in some game logs, the early part of the season is at the bottom. Yeah, okay. Yeah, he wasn't that good in April. My recollection was accurate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he had a 6.21 ERA after that May 4th start. I don't know. I mean, good for him. He's turned it around. It's still hard to trust him at home. It'll always be hard to trust him at home. Hopefully it's not his home for that much longer. I don't know.
Amazing thing is he's only made 4 starts at home in that 11 start stretch.
and
He's only made 4 starts on the road in that 11.
You were looking at it backwards this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard in the 5x5 leagues, especially, to trust in him. I feel like, because at least in the points leagues, you know, if he pitches well, he's going to give you the volume, and you don't care so much about how many base runners he gives up. But lately, it's just been good across the board. So I don't know. I don't have anything that intellectual to say about it. Just you know, he's been good more often than he's been bad in recent years, and he seems to be doing it again.
Yeah, I mean, he's got like a 3.60 ERA right now. I think that's kind of what he is more often than not. It might be frustrating and ups and downs on the way there, but that was why I had him as a top 50 starting pitcher coming into the season.
I've moved him just outside of my top 50 starting pitchers. I was pretty aggressive with moving him up just because, I mean, this is a pretty extended stretch now where he's pitched very well. So for German Marquez, he's pitching really well at home this year too. 3.06 ERA at Coors Field. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he's on a super affordable contract right now too. Yeah, signed through 2024. If the Rockies want to move him, now is the time to do it with him pitching this well and on this contract, because
Get on it.
Theoretically should be able to get a good amount in return for.
Can you imagine the haul they'd get if they paired him in Story?
Yeah, the Rockies aren't going to trade those guys.
You know, it'd be kind of like the haul Cleveland got for Lindor and Carrasco, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's also excited about. I always forget his name. Not Amed Rosario, the other one.
Oh, Andres Jimenez.
Andres Jimenez. Yeah. What's going on with him? Haven't heard his name in a while. Anyway, pitching standouts part 3. We'll quickly wrap up here. Nick Pivetta at Oakland, 7 shutout with 10 strikeouts. Last time out, I told you could drop him. Good job, Frank. James Caprillion versus the Red Sox, 7 innings, 1 run, 10 strikeouts, 20 swinging strikes against the Red Sox. Very impressive there for Caprillion. And Anthony DeSclafani, a.k.a. Scott, will not say that he's a must-start starting pitcher at Arizona. 8 2/3, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts. Just keeps chugging away. Pivetta, Caprillion, DeSclafani.
You know, one of the more notable all-star snubs is Anthony DeSclafani, because there's no denying the numbers he's put up so far. It's just, where does he go from here? That's what I question. He's got a 391 xFIP, more than a point higher than his ERA, and less than a strikeout per inning. So he's got some shortcomings. Anthony DeSclafani, as I've been saying all along. You know, the pitcher I actually like the most of this trio, I think, is James Caprillion.
I think that's fair. I think I prefer DeSclafani, but I think it's reasonable.
I mean, there is the not so small issue of him being a rookie with an extensive injury history, and how are they going to handle him in the second half? But just in terms of what the underlying numbers look like, not to mention the on the surface numbers, very impressive for James Caprillion.
I will point out he's got a 2.84 ERA at this point, Caprillion, with a 4.22 xFIP. He gives up a lot of fly balls, 46% fly ball rate. The difference between someone like him and Manoah is that he pitches in Oakland. So it's a little bit easier to get away with giving up that many fly balls.
Yeah, and look, he has a higher xFIP than Desclafani. So I don't know. That was very inconsistent. Very inconsistent.
Well, you know what, Scott?
Distinction I drew between the two. I guess I like Desclafani the most. Okay,
consistency is the hobgoblin of feeble minds, as someone said. Ralph Waldo Emerson or someone maybe. I don't know. Who said it.
Where do you come up?
Guy.
The hobgoblin,
man. Like some of the things you say, I've never heard in my life.
It was Ralph Waldo Emerson. God, I'm so smart.
All right. Let's wrap up the call to the pen. Some bullpen updates we've already mentioned. Heath Hembry has had 2 saves over the weekend for the Cincinnati Reds. Amir Garrett he pitched earlier one of the games in the 7th. Brad Brock was pitching in the 7th and the 8th inning. Neither of those guys were available on Saturday because they've been pitching a lot recently. So Hembry got another save there. Your guess is as good as mine for Cincinnati's bullpen. The Kansas City Royals, maybe it's Scott Barlow. I don't know. They kind of do this thing where they go to a different reliever for a couple of weeks at a time. But Scott Barlow picked up 2 saves with Greg Holland being used in the 8th inning for both of those.
But I was waiting for Barlow to get his chance because he's had the best numbers in that bullpen for a while now, and it was one of my higher priority pickups this weekend. Scott Barlow was.
All right, Scott, would you take Barlow over any of the Reds and any of the Phillies?
Yes, I would, although I don't see it in your notes here, but I'm thinking, is it Ronher Suarez or Ranger Suarez? It's spelled like Ranger. But he's a left-hander, actually a former starting pitcher prospect, who has a 0.85 ERA in their bullpen this year, 0.7 whip. The strikeout rate is low, but I believe he's a good ground ball pitcher. And obviously his prevented damage, and he got his first save over the weekend. Hector Neris had like a 6-run outing, so he continues to disqualify himself, and obviously Jose Alvarado's been a disaster. So Joe Girardi said he liked the way Suarez looked in the 9th there, and didn't necessarily say he's the closer now, but kind of hinted at it. And so, yeah, I like Scott Barlow more, but Suarez is probably my second choice among emerging closer candidates when I did waivers this weekend.
Suarez is 14% rostered on CBS for those of you who play in deeper categories leagues. And for Hector Neris, he gone. For the Giants, each of Jake McGee and Tyler Rogers had a save over the weekend. For the Tigers, Gregory Soto allowed 3 earned runs on Sunday. Jose Cisnero recorded the final out for his 4th save. For the Marlins on Monday, Yimi Garcia was used in back-to-back days. So Anthony Bender came in and got his first save, and maybe the handcuff there if something happens to Garcia or they decide to trade him at the deadline. Bender's got really good numbers for the season. And for the Twins on Monday, Taylor Rogers recorded 5 outs between the 7th and 8th innings. And then Hansel Robles got his 8th save. Robles has the last 3 saves for the Minnesota Twins. To stream or not to stream for Tuesday, Jamison Tyone at the Mariners, Dane Dunning versus the Tigers, John Gray at the Diamondbacks, Ryan Weathers versus the Nationals, Johnny Cueto versus the Cardinals, and Merrill Kelly versus the Rockies.
I will go with John Gray at Arizona. That's pretty easy.
Yep.
Tyone at Seattle is probably my second favorite.
Yep.
And then if I was forced to pick a third, I guess Merrill Kelly against the Rockies in Arizona.
Yeah. Like, yeah, but
Yeah. You know what they say about Merrill Kelly? He's no Alex Cobb.
Well,
they should
who
say
is?
that if they don't. I don't know who they are, but
For Wednesday, to stream or not to stream, Drew Smiley at the Pirates, Brady Singer versus the Reds, Andrew Heaney versus the Red Sox, Alec Mills versus the Phillies, Antonio Senzatella at the Diamondbacks. This group is awful, and I'm going to try to find more on a different website.
I mean, I could maybe be convinced to start Drew Smiley at Pittsburgh if I was under duress.
Drew
But
Smiley,
otherwise,
well, Scott, I know you don't like him, but his last 4 starts, he's been really
he
good.
has gotten good results. But I believe he's just a guy, and maybe even more guy-y than Chris Flexen.
All right, there's no one available. J Happ versus the White Sox, no. Will Crow versus the Braves.
I think if I was going to do any of them, I might just throw a dart at Brady Singer just because I think he's the most talented of this group.
Oh man, I'm so over it with Brady Singer. Drew Smiley's probably the only one that that's okay. Yeah. Antonio Senzatella, nah. All right, Drew Smiley it is. For Scott and Chris, I am Frank. Oh, by the way, we didn't get to Team Name Tuesday today, but I will include your team names on Wednesday. So Team Name Wednesday, that's coming up tomorrow. For Scott and Chris, I am Frank. Thank you all for listening and watching Fantasy Baseball today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.